Ancestors insulting Oduduwa, saying Yoruba and slavery, Yoruba and human sacrifice, Yoruba and this, and I'm like, do you know your history?
Ó dàbí bíi pé torí pé a ti fèsì Benin jù àwọn Ìgbò ti wá ń yí Anambra gbogbo wọn ń bẹ. I think we should dedicate some 2 weeks to them. Let us see if they can stay on this TikTok with us. Ṣé mọ̀ pé àwọn fúnra wọn báyìí emotions wọn, they are born, they have a genetic disorder of not being able to kàn gbé nǹkan mọ́ra. Tí n bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú wọn èmi mà lẹ́nu wọ́n dá mi mọ́ ni o. Kékeré ni bọ́bùsù yìí ń ṣe yẹn o. If I enter una mata bí n bá ṣe ń sọ lóyìnbó ni màá máa ṣe sọ Yorùbá ni màá máa wọ yín kú bí I better pass my neighbor, because for you to make bọ́bùsù yìí this ó mì pé lóòótọ́ nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ ṣe yẹn it was bad. Before you start reading the books, let me just make some contribution. Now, it is a very funny thing when Igbo people come on the social media, some of these people, because not all Igbos, nítorí pé ìyálé mi bá Igbo ni, ìyàwó àbúrò ọkọ mi Igbo ni, àwọn ti marry káwa tó marry.
Ọmọ gidi wà ń bẹ, Ọlọ́run ṣe àwọn èèyàn gidi wà ń bẹ.
Yes,
torí wọn la
it's
ṣe
one
máa
of the
hold back
reasons
because
I
they are good
always
Igbo
hold
people
back.
too.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I hold back. Then I still have ẹ̀gbọ́n mi kan náà ọmọ Òwèrì ló fẹ́. We just lost ìyàwó kan náà tá a fẹ́ lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí, àwọn family friends mi. In fact, one Ondo State náà wá sí woman yẹn sí ọmọ Òwèrì náà. She was a very good woman. Ọmọ ẹ̀ ọ̀rẹ́ mi ni a jọ ń ṣiṣẹ́ school kan náà ni. So these are reasons back from their history, because I have a lot of very good people. One of my best friends, the husband is a consultant gastroenterologist, Ọmọ Anambra. The husband is practically like, in fact, Yorùbá ló máa ń sọ, Yorùbá Ìlọrin ló máa ń sọ torí pé Ìlọrin ló dàgbà. So these are reasons why I hold back from really hitting them hard. But since they are looking for it, torí pé àwọn ò kọ́ àwọn tó wà lórí social media hàn gbé wọn yanná rárá, I think we should just have 2 weeks to deal with them. Now, let's go into some things about these false people. Àwọn ènìyàn tí àwọn British tí wọ́n kó papọ̀ tánà wọn fẹ́ wá sọ history àwa kan. In the first instance, some time ago I think it was last week. I didn't want to make a response because I didn't want to popularize it. I saw them saying that the Yoruba part of Nigeria was slave coast. So all of us in that whatever were called slaves. I just laughed. I said, see these mumu people. Have you ever asked yourself why? Have you ever asked yourself where that slave coast, where it reached onto? Did you think the slave coast that the Oyinbos were calling this part of the world then only stopped in Yoruba land? That's the question we should ask you. It didn't stop in Yoruba land. It was the whole of Nigeria together. There's a book, Evio Mangesu, written by one African American. Although in that book, he was trying to say that the Yoruba people were ancient Israelites and the Yoruba and the Ewe people. I don't agree with his thesis, but there was something in that book. You can go and look for it. It's written by all these Hebrew African Americans. Evio Mangesu. That's the name of the book. He was trying to say that in that book, he established it, that the whole of what is called present-day southern Nigeria and Benin Republic was what was known as slave coast. So it was not just Yoruba land. So please, Southeasterners, you are sharing false history. You are twisting history by saying it was only Yoruba land that was called slave coast. The slave coast referred to what we know as Benin today, some part of Togo, into southern part of Nigeria. That was what was known as slave coast. And guess what? When these Africans of West Africa were trading in slaves, that's number one. Now, number two, what you should also know is that the Yoruba people, we had what we call Iwofa. Ẹ máa gbọ́ o, a ní nǹkan tó ń pè ní Ìwọ̀fà, a sì ní nǹkan tí wọ́n tó bá ní wọ́n lọ́ọ́ fi yàn ṣe wọ̀fà, a sì ní nǹkan tí wọ́n ń pè ní ẹrú. What is the difference between Iwofa and Eru? Ondo ìyàn la múlùwẹ̀ nọ́fà. La múlùwẹ̀ nọ́fà. In those days, just like it was practiced in the Hebrew culture, if your parents could not afford some things, maybe they wanted to do something and they couldn't afford it. It was a practice in this part of the world, in our own part of the world, that your parents would actually use you to go and stand in for them. It was as if you are standing in for them. Because you are standing in for your parents like a guarantor. So you stand in and walk. It was practiced in Hebrew culture. The Yorubas practiced something like that. And they were treated as house servants. They were not slaves. So originally in Yoruba culture, it seemed that the Yoruba people did not enslave themselves. They didn't enslave one another. Sorry.
Bless you. Maybe you should take some water.
The Yoruba people
Okay.
didn't. Ẹ̀yin kọ́ lẹ̀ ń sàsímí o, ata ni mò ń dín lọ́wọ́. Nítorí pé wọn ò pẹ́ sọ pé àwọn náà wọ́n sàsíyàn. Yoruba people were not enslaving themselves. They were not enslaving themselves. They were not enslaving. Sorry. They were not enslaving one another. What we had was what the Jewish culture, stop it. The Jewish culture too were not enslaving Jews like themselves, but they could have servants that were Jews because the law of God permitted that for one another. And that was what the ancient Yoruba culture was. Yoruba people didn't servants ni àwọn èèyàn ń ṣe and farmhands. Now, what led into slavery, the modern idea of slavery that we have today among the Yorubas, was the issue of when our kingdom started developing and we started having very big kingdoms and we started raiding one another and the issue of war started. And if you go from the Bible too, you would realize that even from the Bible, because all of you who are running wild on the social media, I know you go to church and you read the Bible. Even in the Bible, people were permitted to go to war. Yes. And part of the spoils of war were human beings that were taken from war. They were part of the war booties. That was what happened in Yoruba land. Wọ́n lọ ja ogun, àwọn tán kó lógun tí wọ́n win over, they became slaves. Even at that, some of those people were the ones that were sold. Yoruba ancestors did not practice abduction. Tí àwọn kan practice tá mọ̀ wọ́n nípa orúkọ wọn. They will hide in people's forest. They will go and be abducting people and be selling them like these people of Oke-Oya tí wọ́n ń ṣe lónìí. Yoruba ancestors didn't do that. Yoruba ancestors got slaves through war.
Madam Asha, let's also make that clear that the people who were picking people in the forest, in the bushes, were the same people who are following a Kaladera.
Yes. Àwọn tí wọ́n lọ ń dúró sínú oko olóko bush lónìí báyìí they are against the Fulanis, but wọ́n náà kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ní history. Ẹ ti mọ̀ wọ́n, àwọn ará àkáládẹ́ran, ìkálà tó dáran, àwọn ará bíbáyìí, àwọn kòbòkòbò, àwọn ló máa lọ ń dúró sínú igbó. They will hide in the forest, people's forest, and go and be abducting them. You know, ẹni tó bá ti ṣe mistake tó wá sóko, they will abduct them. They will go and sell them. Most of the things they did in history, they didn't raid those people's towns. They actually stole those people. They actually abducted those people. The Yorubas did not do that. The Yoruba ancestors did not do that. The Yorubas did not hide in the forest to abduct people. In our history, it was the issue of Alojagun. We went to war. we won the war and we took people as spoils of war. And in those days, those people that were taken as spoils of war were Yoruba. Some of them were married to some of our warriors. So Okpeti and one Yoruba subgroups marry ara wọn. Some of them were married as warriors. Most of the people that were actually sold were the men who were able-bodied men, that they maybe the teenagers who they felt could work. And when you want and that's why today, when you look at the percentage of Yorubas in the diaspora that were sold into slavery, most of them, now that's number one. Number two, let me also say that Yoruba ancestors, the people that's out of the 9%, Yoruba ancestors didn't sell up to 2% of those people. And what Fulani. Please get it right. Most of our Yoruba see slavery in the Americas were the ones the Fulanis hid in the forest to abduct and sold. Please get that right so that you will stop saying our ancestors did not abduct any people in the forest like these people. It was people were taken as spoils of war. And thank God today the Yorubas came to that realization and stopped the war. And today we are in peace and we love one another. Now that's that. So the Ìlà Oòrùn people, now let me come to your matter. Let me tell you this, that in your history, in the last 500 years, in history, pre-colonial history, there was nothing like Igbos. And the Igbo you call yourselves today, I actually do not believe it means ancient people. It actually means the people. Research me, the people. That Ndi seems to be the determinant the why the Gbo seems to be people, or maybe the Indi is the people or the Gbo becoming the determinant. It's either of the two. The people. Now we don't know who these people are. I do not believe, because you say Gbo means ancient in Igbo. Now that's Gbo, and that Gbo is double O. And there is no double O in Ndigbo. There's no double O, it's Ndigbo. Just one O. So how come you are claiming it means that word Gbo? That means ancient in your language. So that word Ndigbo, I do not believe that it is ancient people. You guys are just capping. Now let's get into your matter. I believe that the nucleus of your people, because when we trace you by cannibalism, when we trace you, sometime in African nations,
you are tracing them by cannibalism. Madam Asha.
Yeah, let's use that cannibalism, human eating. Trace one people here, now láàárín àwọn Bantu tá à ń pè ní Bantu yìí, àwọn kan wà láàárín wọn láti ibi Cameroon yẹn lọ sí Guinea area yẹn táwọn náà máa ń jẹ èèyàn. Kì í ṣe Nàìjíríà nìkan ni that practice of eating other human beings ti ṣẹlẹ̀. Wọ́n máa ń dí gbogbo àwọn around láti Cameroon yẹn lọ sí irú Guinea yẹn, wọ́n máa ń ṣe. A friend of mine is in Papua New Guinea. Presently, there are still some small clans ní Papua New Guinea tán máa ń jẹ èèyàn tó fi jẹ́ wípé àwọn òyìnbó yẹn wọn ò ní gbà kẹ́ẹ̀dé àárín wọn, and they are like us. Wọ́n dẹ̀ sọ pé Africa náà ti migrate jáde tán gba kí náà ti máa ń pe kí ní Madagascar jáde síbẹ̀ yẹn. Ó jọ wípé this culture kán máa bu èèyàn jẹ, kán máa sọ di súyà yìí, ó jọ wípé àárín kò jọ Cameroon lọ sí Equatorial Guinea lọ yẹn, ibẹ̀ yẹn ni nucleus àwọn humanitas yìí ti wá, nítorí pé àwọn Bantus kan wà ńbẹ̀ tí máa ń jẹ èèyàn. Ó dà pé ibẹ̀ yẹn ni wọ́n ti ṣàn wá, tí wọ́n wá sí tán wọ Nàìjíríà wá. Number one. Ó dàbí pé àwọn people yìí ló wá form nucleus àwọn ará ìlà oòrùn yìí. Nítorí wípé tẹ́ bá wo gbogbo àwọn cultures around these people, tí àwọn slaves wọn, because nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ni wípé wọ́n ní there was this nucleus tí wọ́n máa ń jẹ èèyàn wọn ò ju 10% lọ. So other ethnicities around them, like the Ijaws, the Igalas, the Benis, and all other people àtàwọn tó wà ní Anioma lónìí, àwọn Ika gbogbo àwọn yẹn. So ó dà pé slaves àwọn yẹn ló wá ń sá lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn, náà wá ń sá lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn, náà wá ń sá lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn. They will escape to that place, they will escape. Then eventually some migrations from láti apá bíbà yìí ó lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn, wọ́n wá settle bọ̀. Àwọn yẹn wọ́n distinct from them. Àwọn kan wá láti ilẹ̀ Tífú, wọ́n wá láti ilẹ̀ àwọn Anang wọ̀nyí, gbogbo wọn ṣáà kóra wọn papọ̀. So these people we are talking about today, adájọ́ oríṣiríṣi ènìyàn ló lọ fọ́ọ̀mù wọn. I don't know if you are getting the àṣàmọ̀ tí mò ń pa. I don't know if our people are getting it. Adájọ́. So that's why we have a lot of gene pool around that place. Adájọ́. Náà wọ́n bì kan ẹ̀rí adájọ́ àwọn ọ̀jọ́. Náà wọ́n bì kan ẹ̀rí adájọ́ àwọn tán ń pera wọn ní Kwéré. Ẹ̀rí adájọ́ àwọn kan tán ń pera wọn ní àwọn ẹ̀fìkìbìbì wọ̀nyí. Adájọ́ wọn wà ń bẹ̀. So adájọ́ ni wọ́n jẹ́. Ìdí nìyẹn tí àwọn ará Anambra ṣe máa ń sọ pé àwọn òun ṣègbò. So in their history, wọn ò ní homogeneous ancestry. Adájọ́ ènìyàn ni wọ́n. And adájọ́ ènìyàn tá a wá ń sọ, irú adájọ́ wo ni? Àwọn ẹrú, àwọn ethnicities tó wà ń bẹ̀ yẹn ni ẹrú wọn tó sá lọ bí nígbà tí wọ́n sì ń ṣe àwọn plantations ní.
Madam Asha, òyìnbó ẹjọ Gẹ̀ẹ́sì torí àwọn tó ń gbọ́ wa. Gẹ̀ẹ́sì torí àwọn
so it was the escaped slaves of the ethnicities around that were running into the forest of that place called Ìlà-Oòrùn today, the southeast. Those slaves that were runaway slaves. Like during the plantation era, the slave era in the United States, some slaves actually escaped that went to go and form some colonies in the US. That was the same thing that happened to what we call the Southeast today. Escaped slaves from different ethnicities around them. Escaped slaves from the Igala, that is why the Igala today in the past, they used to call them Oligbo. Go and check out, ask any Igala person. Oligbo. So that's why when you study their culture, you will see that some culture looks like Igala culture. Some of those cultures look like Ijaw culture. Some culture looks like the Anang, Ibibio culture. Some culture looks like the Tiv culture. It's a pool of different things from different ethnicities. And when one they are the ones we call the Southeasterners today. Now, it is one of the reasons they do not know their history. Number one. Number two, it is one of the reasons they keep, when they see this history today, it looks like what their clan told them, they will run and go and claim it. For instance, somebody said that there is a community in Imo. That community, about 7 people from different places formed that community. And it is one of the reasons in that community they don't agree, because they are from different places, different origins. So when we are talking about the gene pool that contributed to the people we have in the Southeast today, we should be talking about like 10. Is a hybrid population. And now, these are the people who want to come and tell us our history. But one of the significant things that these people did in their history was that, number one, they did not just buy people for sacrifices. Then they did not just have the caste system like they do in India, but they were also chopping people like suya. Now, if you study human history, let's study human history. That character of eating other human beings belongs to the age of Homo erectus. I'm not sure even Homo erectus ate one another. So, when human beings had not even become Homo sapien, was when people were eating one another. So, That thing belonged to that. You are saying I should show proof. Go and read Talbot now. I think Talbot has about 8 volumes on you people. And in that, he did a map where he showed how you people were just chopping human beings, how you were chopping one another. In fact, there is a particular story from, I think it's from Talbot, where he said that they got to a place and they saw some of you went to buy a young man from the market and you kept the young man in a cage and started fattening the young man so that the young man will have enough flesh for your
Yam.
with yam
We're
so
feeding
that the
him.
young man will have enough flesh for your party of human chopping. So what are you saying? That I should show proof? There is proof of that practice among you. There's proof. So
I'll read it now. Remember, please
yes,
continue. I'm going to
Kasita.
stop and read it.
Now,
Emma, no?
that practice belongs to the age of Homo erectus, when human beings were not Homo sapiens, when they had not evolved. That was when human beings were eating one another. And some people are even still practicing. I still have the video. Some people were, captured in the Olu area of Imo State, Olu to Esu area of Imo State. There was a camp that was discovered by Nigeria police where people were not just abducted and pied and their parts were sold. They were abducted, pied, and roasted to be eaten. Even in 2020, as of 2024, recent videos. Now, that is not the only thing. Now, let's look at the culture of nakedness. The culture of nakedness. The culture of nakedness. And even till today
Sorry.
now, this culture of nakedness, when you
The round of some,
study,
I think I'll continue to watch it.
okay, yes, sir. When you study Nigerian history, you would realize that from the north, today, when you look at the northerners, you say, hey, the northerners are this, the Hausas are that. But when you study the history of the Hausas, the history, you would realize that from the north down to the southwest, we have had thousands of years of clothing, of this, of that. But starting from once you leave Ondo State and you enter Benin and you start going like that, this culture of nakedness was a thing. Now, it is not just about the ancient culture of nakedness. It is even today, one of the reasons it is very easy for your women to go into modeling is because una like to naked una self. Una like to show una bum, show una breast for the whole world. Yes, because the European whatever for beauty says that until a woman walks naked, the beauty cannot be accessed. And you guys bought into it. Yeah, one of the reasons, it's not because Yoruba women are not beautiful. That's why we do not do modeling. The reason we don't do modeling is that from over 1,000 years that I've been, about Yoruba history that I've read, Yorubas have always prized the covering of the body. Our civilization started early, that we put a price on the covering of the body. But una no dey put price for that covering of the body. It's one of the reasons you feel that by wearing pata and bra and twisting your waist like this, it makes you beautiful because it shows the world you are beautiful. That is why most of your women, they find it easy to go for beauty pageants. They find it easy because nakedness was a cultural thing with you guys. Nakedness was a cultural thing. For the Yorubas, till you go to the north, nakedness was not a cultural thing. So, if we want to trace history, and we want to trace history of civilization, please let us always use some of these concepts, this methodology. Let's look at the chopping of human beings, the nakedness thing, the caste system that they practiced, the fact that they do not make original things. Yes, they don't make original things. Iko ni wọ́n máa ń wọ̀ láyé àtijọ́ tó máa ti wọṣọ tán, iko. Please, what's the English for iko? That's what they. Ta ló mọ English iko?
Raffia.
Iko. That's their best. Iko náà máa ń wọ̀. Wọ́n á fi ìkó bo, wọ́n á kàn fi bo ọmú, wọ́n á fi bo
The English is
Raffia. Is it not raffia?
Raffia phone,
raffia.
Davi.
What's
Yes.
raffia? Someone is saying raffia.
Another thing is that I hope you know that until the Civil War, they didn't have good soups until the Civil War. It was the Civil War that made them to explore their environment in order to be able to discover some of the vegetables they eat. It is one of the reasons today that àwọn vegetables wọn yẹn wọ́n máa ń jọ, some of those vegetables they actually look like weed and not normal vegetables that human beings eat. Let me start from now. I'm going to be bringing up some other points later. Ẹ kàwé fún wa.
All right, yeah. So a few
Professor
things I want
Busui.
to quickly.
Professor
Any
Busui.
please hold on. Review. Mo fẹ́ ó ní nǹkan